Morning, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday morning with Morning Musings with Terry. Um, this is a new stream idea that we came up with a few weeks ago that we're running every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. as long as I don't have other issues that take me away. Like last week, I was unable to make it. I had some projects I was working on. I had to get done, but for the most part, we're here every Sunday. Um, Today, I want to talk briefly about a live stream that we did last week. It was a live stream with a poultry nutritionist, Jeff Maddox. It was amazing, guys. If you haven't seen that live stream, I would highly recommend that you watch it. What I'm thinking about doing is actually going back into that live stream, re-editing it, and put in just the talk session part of that live stream. There is a ton of good information. Jeff did a wonderful job. Rebecca asked all the right questions, and it made for a really good show. And actually, guys, some of the stuff that Jeff brought up made me kind of rethink my whole feed regimen for my birds. And the types of feed that I'm feeding, when to switch off, as far as from a starter to a grower to a layer, which I've never done that before, but it was really cool. I mean, he talked about the guaranteed analysis sheet, broke everything down, what we need to look for, and I know a lot of people. First thing they think about when they're ordering or buying food for their quail, protein. Everybody wants to know, what protein level do I need, and calcium is another one too. But I even noticed in the live stream where a lot of people are asking, is this 30% okay or is 28% okay? And Jeff's kind of leaning towards, well, that's not what we're looking for. Yeah, you want a higher protein, but there are some other ingredients that really need to be in there to make for a well-rounded feed. So, and it's funny too because I don't want to talk bad about Purina. I used to use Purina, but one of the first guaranteed analysis tags that Jeff read said that Purina starter feed is actually not a bad feed. I mean, as far as everything that needs to be in there. What he was saying was that the lysine and the methionine are two of the more important things that we need to look for, which in some feeds, and I've sent him other tags. Some feeds have very low levels of these, and it can cause issues with your quail. So I thought that was really cool. Like I say, if you guys haven't seen the live stream, if you've got, I think it's almost 2 hours long, hour and a half maybe. If you've got the time, sit down and watch it, or put in a pair of earbuds or something and just listen to what he has to say, because it is unbelievably interesting. Another thing that he was telling or saying, and it's one thing that I've always said, no, you don't need, was grit in a quail's diet. And I'm like, well, if you're feeding, I always said, if people ask me if they need grit, I say, if you're feeding crumbles, no, you don't need grit because it's a water-soluble feed. From what Jeff is saying is by feeding grit, the birds actually break down the crumbles even further. They break them down. They get a better breakdown, and they get more nutrition out of the feed instead of it just running through them. So, like I say, we learned a whole lot from that live stream, and I definitely want to have him back on the show. We're going to bring him back in and let him answer your questions, because we did run long. I think it went, like I say, about an hour and 45 minutes, maybe somewhere there. I'm not 100% sure, but we couldn't take all the questions that were in the chat room. So what we did do was, over on the Katurnik's Corner Facebook group, we started a post, and I've got it featured. It's pinned to the top, so it's easy to find. where you guys can go in there, ask your questions of Jeff, and he jumps in and answers the questions right there in the group. And I've already uploaded a new or another, not a new, but another guaranteed analysis tag that it was a feed that I can get cheaper, and I think I mentioned this a couple live streams ago. I've got to drive over to the center of the state to get it, but after Jeff looked at the tag, he said, one, the protein's high because it's 32% protein, so again, it is a game bird starter, but he said it's lacking a lot of the other necessary ingredients to make it a decent food. So that kind of shot that idea all the heck. I know one of our other Caternix Corner members, and I believe he's in here, Wendell, he's using it right now, and I sent him a copy of what Jeff had responded, and I'm like, oh well, what do we do? So yeah, the one thing that really kind of changed the way I feed is I've always fed a game bird starter from day one up until they start laying. And according to Jeff, what we want to do is feed a game bird starter for 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks put them on a grower feed. So you say that your game bird starter is 30% protein, you want to drop them down to a grower, which is going to be about 28% protein, or not 28, 22% protein, or even 20%. And then when they start laying, which is on average around 6 weeks, is when you would put them on the layer feed. So, a lot of people say, well, you don't need to do that. But I look at it, especially for people that are raising a lot of birds and going through, hundreds of pounds of feed a week, you can save a lot of money. If you can get those chicks off of the game bird starter at 3 weeks, put them over on a grower, you're going to save, the difference in cost between those two feeds. So I think it's a good idea, and I'm actually working on that right now. As soon as I got to go out and buy more feed, I'm going to do that. I'm going to figure out how much game bird starter I need to get me through the hatches that I've got coming up for 3 weeks. Then how much game bird starter or game bird grower, or not game bird grower, but just a chick grower I'm going to need, and then onto the layer. So the whole thing is about getting off the high price feed and getting it down to a feed that still has the nutritional value that you're looking for, but you're going to save some money. So if you guys want to comment over in the chat room, let me know what kind of feed you guys are using. For those of you who saw the live stream with Jeff, what you thought about that. I think it was really good. I did see one. I see somebody just posted. Frank says he had good success with Tucker milling feeds. That would be an interesting one, Frank, to send a guaranteed analysis tag over to Jeff to see what he says about that. But one tag that he looked up, and I had to actually look it up online, somebody posted a tag from Producers. And at first I thought, oh, this is Producer's Pride. This is that stuff that Tractor Supply sells. And it wasn't. It was. I had to go look it up. I looked up their website, and it's a mill out of Texas. And he said that was a really good feed as far as what was in the on the tag. I can't remember if he had any recommendations on that, but yeah, I guess the best thing I can say, guys, is watch that video, because I think if we can improve the quail's diet, which is going to lead to less problems with the birds, going to produce a healthier bird, that I think it's well worth it. I mean, this is the first time that I've heard of anybody that actually talked to a poultry nutritionist about quail. And there's other channels out there that are giving out, I won't say bad information, but information that's not 100% accurate. And after talking with Jeff and having him on the live stream, there is just so much more into this whole feed thing than most people realize. So, yeah, go ahead and post in the comment section what you thought about Jeff if you watched it. Any questions you might have about feed. I mean, if I can answer them, I'll answer them. If not, we'll shoot it on over to Jeff in the Facebook group. But let's see, what else was there that I want to talk about? Grit's the one thing that I tried. I actually, I got a bag of grit yesterday. I think the day before yesterday came in, and I offered it to the birds. All I did was sprinkle it on top of their regular feed. I used 3-foot long feed troughs, and I just sprinkled it on top of their feed, and boy, they went crazy for it. They were just picking it like crazy. So, and I think somebody even asked, that's a very good question, Wendell, and I'm going to get to that because we did talk about that a little bit, and you're going to be surprised at the answer. So I'll get to that here shortly. But what was I just saying before Wendell interrupted me? Oh shoot, I forgot what I was talking about. Boy, that one just went right out of my head. That's what happens when you get up early in the morning and have to do these live streams. All right, I'm going to jump in the was I talking about grit? Was that what I was saying? Anyhow, yeah, let's go ahead and jump in the live stream and see what you guys got going on, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, Wendell's in the house. He said the sun is finally shining in Southwest Florida. Finally. It's been shining here every day, and it's so hot. I was out working the bees yesterday morning, day before yesterday. Oh my God, my ventilated suit was drenched. I mean, I was so hot. Anita Garrett's in the house says good morning. Good morning, Anita. Bob Cole says good morning. Davis Family 5 says good morning from Alabama. Terry Blackman's in the house says good morning from Bessemer, Alabama. Sweet home, Alabama. Frank Brown's in the house says good morning. Samantha Stratton's in the house says good morning from Michigan. Just inventorying the kids' clothes for school this week. Yeah, that's right. School's coming up. Kids are going to be back on our schools have actually already started because I'm seeing buses all over the place, so they're back to school already. Frank says he's in Lilburn, Georgia. Is that how you pronounce that? Venture Forth says Marn. I don't know what that is, but okay. Nabiki's in the house. Good morning from Southern Oregon. Glad you could join us, Nabiki. Fat Bike Expedition says good morning and happy hatching. Pappy's Homestead says morning all. Hit that like button. Yeah, you guys can hit the like button. We don't have a whole lot of people in here today. We do have a few likes, but these live streams, the morning musings, it's not really a stream that I worry too much about as far as number of hits or number of viewers. It's just something to do while we're drinking our coffee, and if you guys got any questions, we'll take them. And a lot of times we haven't done that many, but there's not even a topic going on. I try to think of something to say, but usually we don't have a topic like we normally do on our regular live streams. Dragon Girl's in the house says good morning from Washington State. Venture Force is Mississippi here. Lindsay's in the house. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lindsay. Fat Bike Expedition says, of course he did it great. His name is Jeff, like mine. Okay. Trevino Ranch says, good morning from Laredo, Texas. Dale Strong's in the house. Says, good morning, everyone. Lindsay says, Jeff Maddox is amazing. He reached out to me after I posted a question to help me find a better feed near me. I'm so happy Rebecca and you brought him on board. That was actually all Rebecca's doing. Rebecca reached out to me and said this was after a video came out that kind of had a lot of bad information in it. And she reached out to me and said, Terry, a good friend of mine is a poultry nutritionist. What do you think about me contacting him and see if he wants to come on the live stream? And she did, and he did, and it turned out to be much more interesting than I thought I thought poultry nutrition, how much can there be? But wow, he broke it down, and the way he explained it, Jeff told me before the live stream started, he said, Terry, he goes, how do you want me to do this? And I said, just, Rebecca's going to pose the questions to you, and you just answer them the best you can. He said, well, I kind of have a tendency to speak my mind. And I said, go for it. You did, and it was great. So yeah, it was an amazing live stream. Kia Chris says, good morning. Mr. J. Sosa's in the house. Says, hi, Terry. I saw in the Facebook group that you shouldn't feed raw beans to quail. Do you know why? I do not. I mean, I don't know who said that you shouldn't. And to be honest with you, I don't know why you would really want to. But unless it's maybe like something like a treat. But that would be a good one for Jeff. Like I say, I don't know. Okay, well, Venture 4 says any raw bean has toxins detrimental to birds. So there you go. Dale Strong says, I missed the live stream but ended up watching it a couple times. There was a lot of information. I actually have to do the same thing. I want to go back, and that's why I want to cut out the meetup part of it, where Rebecca's talking to Jeff and asking questions, is because running the live stream, I really didn't get a whole lot of. I couldn't sit and listen exactly as intent as I wanted to. So yeah, I need to sit down and watch it again. And like I say, I'll cut out the beginning part of it and cut out all the chat room stuff and just have Jeff's talk, and that'll be just a standalone video. Fat Bike Expedition says, I found a grower to start mine on just because of him. Cool. And it says, I've had good success with Tucker milling feeds. Yeah, I've heard of Tucker milling. I've heard of them. I don't know anything about their feeds. And it says, I was happy he talked about mash feed. Yep. See, Rob's in the house. Says, good morning. Oh, good morning, Rob. Bill Thompson said, I learned that my 4-month-old birds that never had grit need it. Yep, me too. That was the one thing that I picked up. Not one thing, but one of the things that I picked up on. Jeremiah says, my IFA has a locally milled 28% game bird starter. I'd be interested to see what, if you can get a tag off of it, post it on the Facebook group, and Jeff will analyze it and let you know what he thinks about it. Lana says, it was a great video. I'm new to quail and found it very helpful. Yep, as did I. It was really good. Fat Bike Expedition says his electrolyte formula is an old-time drink recipe called Switchel. Okay, never heard of that. They used to drink it while in the fields in the colonial days. I'll be darned. Anita Garrett says, we developed our feed in communication with a poultry nutritionist also. Yeah, I know that, Anita, because you've told me that before. And also, that's more of a whole grain feed versus like a crumble or something. But okay. Wendell says, question, I wonder who is actually testing the feed to make sure what's shown on the label is accurate. And I believe that Jeff mentioned something about that, and I can't remember if it was one of the chat room questions or if somebody asked him that on Facebook, and he said that there aren't a whole lot of people that are actually, retesting what the company's nutritionist says is in there. They're giving a breakdown in numbers mathematically, and yeah, so I'm really curious as to what the company that Jeff's with does, and I can't remember the name of it. Fertrell, something like that. Fertrell. I'm going to ask him that, Wendell, exactly, because you're right. You got a nutritionist that says, okay, this is a good formula, and they put it together, and then who's actually testing that formula to make sure that what they're saying number-wise is on there. Jeremiah says, do you still feed eggshells to your quail, Terry? I do when, like if I collect up a bunch of eggs that I'm either not going to sell, what I'll do is I'll hard boil them. And when I hard boil a bunch of eggs, I usually do like 100, 150 at a time. Then I will, I'll crumble up the eggs. But just, to go out, and grab a few eggs, like I eat 8 or so in the morning. I don't save those eggs to bake them up and feed them back to the shells. But yes, I do feed back eggshells when I have a bunch of them. Lindsay said, if you're in Pennsylvania, he said Stevens Milling has a quail feed that he recommends. They have a mill they just bought in rural retreat, Virginia, but they won't send any down to Virginia unless you buy 30 plus bags. And that's the problem I see with a lot of these mills that have a decent feed. You've got to buy so much of it in order to get them to ship it to you, if it's not available locally. I had talked to one of our feed stores about getting Kalmbach in, because like I said before, I was feeding Purina, and everybody, gave me good reviews about Kalmbach. So I had gone down to our local feed store, and I asked him, I don't know, it had to have been 3 or 4 times going in there, can you guys get Kalmbach? And they finally got back with me. It must have been 2 or 3 months down the road, but they did finally get it in, and they carry it now, so that's where I can get it. Lindsay says he was going to talk to the owner and see if they may try stocking it in Virginia, though. Jeff is really the best. That'd be cool. Rob says, Jeff is amazing. He is local to me, so I'm sure I'll be in contact with him. I just wished he would have elaborated on Kalmbach starter and the show feed more. Talk with Rebecca Lynch, because she feeds Kalmbach, and she's got her own recipe, I guess, that she puts together with the show feed and her regular Kalmbach. Talk with her. She can probably answer those questions if Jeff doesn't get to it. Charles says, for years we've switched at 3 weeks to a mix of layer and starter. Like all birds, we use grit also. Cool. Nabiki says, I've been looking for a good feed source in my area. There isn't much available. Purina is expensive. Yeah, you're right about the Purina. Problem I have with Purina is the manures. When I'm feeding birds Purina, their manure is so awful smelly. I mean, especially the starter. Not so much the layer, but the starter it makes their poop stink bad. When I went to Kalmbach starter, I won't say eliminated, but it cut it down, quite a bit. Oh, my back is killing me for some reason. I gotta sit back, guys. Bill says, I'm at the mercy of a local feed store in central Pennsylvania. Only have bags of Kalmbach, which is all I have used. Well, Kalmbach, according to Jeff, is a pretty decent feed. It's got an awful lot of attention lately. Prior to talking with Rebecca, I had never even heard of Kalmbach. But I think Rebecca mentioned it to me, and also I think it was Jennifer Bryant from Bryant's Roost said that they've had good luck with it. So, that's when I wanted to give it a try. And so far, I'm happy with it. My birds have done really well with it. The chicks grow fast. They make weight, by a certain age when they're supposed to. Hens are laying great. No issues with soft shells or anything. So, but, we always want to improve our feed if we can, which is hopefully going to improve the health of the birds and whatnot. So. Dale says, I added the grit and they went crazy, gobbled it up fast. Mine did the same thing, Dale. So yeah, if they're gobbling it up, obviously they want it. And I know some people saying, well, I give my birds sand baths, and they eat the sand, and yeah, that acts as a grit, the sand does, but Jeff says it's really not optimal. that you actually want to use. I think he said it was a granite based grit, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I'm going to give it a shot and see how it goes. Wendell says we have had storms every day. Really? I think we've had in the past week maybe 1 or 2 days where it rained and it wasn't much. Matter of fact, I just put gutters on the one side of my house and I'm waiting for it to rain so I can see how my gutters are working. Connor Green's in the house says good morning. Morning, Connor. Child of God said, missed that one. In my area right now, we have limited options, either Tractor Supply or a local farm store. Using Kalmbach 22% starter to finish. Good, no. The Kalmbach I'm using is a 28% starter, and I haven't picked up a grower feed yet, but I'm looking for like a 20 to 22% grower, and then I'll switch over back to my 16% layer. Mary Howard's in the house. Says good morning. I am up. Glad you could join us, Mary. Fat Bike says from northern Michigan, hatch is happening right now. Cool. Yeah, I just had a bunch of chicks hatch out yesterday. Got them in the brooder. Jeremiah D says I give a sand bath with diatomaceous earth and they definitely eat some. Is that a substitute for grit? No. Grit needs to be more like a rock because their crop fills up with grit, and that's what helps them grind the food. The diatomaceous earth, I know they mentioned something about that in the live stream with Jeff, but to be honest with you, I don't remember what his response was on that. Yeah, so I'm going to have to go back and watch that. But no, diatomaceous earth is not a substitute for grit. Anthony's in the house, says good morning. Mary says I'm going to crush up some eggshells and feed them to my ladies today. Yeah, they'll appreciate it, especially if you're having issues with, like soft shells or anything, and you just want to bump their calcium levels up a little bit. Crushed eggshells work great. Not talking to me. Anthony said, got some leftover white rice for the girls today. I don't know how healthy white rice would be for quail. I'd be very leery about, if you're going to feed it to them, make sure it's 100% fully cooked and expanded. I'd be kind of leery about them eating and having it, swell up in their gut. That'd be another question to find out if white rice is okay for them. Connor Green says, just finished making a cup of coffee. I'm actually not drinking coffee this morning. I had a cup when I got up. I got up early. I got up at 6. But I'm drinking a little Canada Dry ginger ale just to, because I like it. Fat Bike says, after being on the website, I see a lot of names I have talked to. Cool. Bill says, I listen in while having breakfast and will bail out early. Have to leave for church. Well, glad you could join us. Mary says, I'm also going to go and check on grit. I think it would help. We are having some smoke up here on the Olympic Peninsula. Yeah, like I say, I just bought a bag of grit. I went online, Amazon. I found the granite type grit. It wasn't really expensive. I think I got 7 pounds for like $9, maybe $8 or $9. Frank says I also add a little colloidal silver to my watering system occasionally. That's a new one to me. I've never heard of that. I've heard of colloidal silver, but I've never heard of giving it to quail. Osborne Farms says, question, has anybody used or know anyone that has used Coturnix for dog training? I have a golden retriever that is bird crazy and I don't want to buy bob whites if I can use some of my extra roos. Actually, yes. A friend of mine, he lives north of me a little bit up in Sarasota. He was coming down quite often. He's got. I know they're bird dogs, Springer Spaniels, maybe. Anyhow, yes, he uses Coturnix all the time. As a matter of fact, he got tired. I guess he got tired of driving down here, so I sold him some hatching eggs, and he actually hatched out his own bunch. So he's actually raising his own Coturnix now to use to train his dogs with. Also, I sold him some dried Coturnix wings, and he was using them, and they worked well. So yes, you can. To answer your question, yeah, you can use your Coturnix. Mary says, I also really love Justin. He has worked at helping me also. He is amazing. Yeah, he is. And to be able to, I mean, I just see him over in the Facebook group page all the time answering all these questions. I mean, the guy's got a full-time job. He works as a nutritionist at the mill. And he still has time to sit down and answer all these questions. I think he's in that little thread. I think he's read and evaluated, I don't know, 10 or 12 guaranteed analysis tags. And yeah, it was really interesting. And I'm so happy that he's willing to do it. And I was really surprised that he said anytime we want him back on the show, it's not a problem, just let him know. So we are going to be doing I don't know exactly when yet, but in the near future, we're going to be doing a 1-hour questions only for Jeff. We're going to bring him in and jump right into the chat room and just take questions for an hour. So that will be really interesting. All right, not talking about me. Carrie says, about to order my first hatching time cage. Super excited. Need the space after visiting Bryant's Roost. I am changing a few things I was thinking on doing. Wow, that's cool that you got to visit Jennifer over there. If you're going to order from Hatching Time, go on any one of my Hatching Time videos here. There is a link in there and also a coupon code that you can use to save a little bit of money. But that link is a direct link in there. If you click that link, it automatically applies the discount to your order. So cool. I think you'll be happy. That's all I'm using now is Hatching Time cages. Everybody asks me, what's wrong with your wire cages? Absolutely nothing. The wire cages are great. But the Hatching Time cages for me were so much easier to keep clean. Just pull the birds out, wheel it outside, pressure wash it, and you're done. So. Wendell says, Dawn knows more about the colloidal silver than anyone I know. Hope she jumps in to help you. Yeah, I would like to hear a little bit about it. I've heard about colloidal silver. I just don't know, what, if any, benefits it has for quail, when and why you would use it. Anita says, yes, having an edited version would be great. Could concentrate on it more. Yeah, that was my thoughts too. And I know a lot of people don't like, you got to watch the first 5 minutes of a live, with the questions or the announcements and whatnot. Nobody wants to listen to me doing that stuff. And then they're not interested in the chat portion of it. So yeah, I'm going to get the meat of the live stream out. We'll make a standalone video for that, and I think that'll work out well. Mary says, I use vinegar in my water in the heat. Oh, in the heat that we've had over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, it's been unbelievably hot down here too. I haven't been adding anything to my water. I used to use it's a vitamin mineral, can't think of the name of it. That's how long it's been since I've used it. Duravet. I used to use it. It's a vitamin electrolyte supplement that you can put in their water. And I used to do it all the time when I had the big 5-gallon buckets above the cages. And I probably should. I probably should add it to the water just because of the heat. I mean, I am running the air conditioner again to keep it a little bit cooler out there, but I don't think it could hurt. The Birdhouse says, can you just add grit to their sand bath, or does it need to be in a separate dish? I would imagine you could add it to the sand bath and they'll eat it, but somebody did ask Jeff about that. putting the grit in a separate dish away from their food. And he said, no, you really need to put it in their food because they're not, especially quail, they're not really smart enough to go over and eat the grit to fill their crop and then eat the food. So by putting it in with the food, he says it makes it look attractive to them, and that's what gets them to eat it. And that was another question as far as the attraction part, was the feed. People were asking him about grinding feed and if it affected the feed at all, which he said no, it doesn't affect the feed at all nutrition wise. But it can make some of the smaller pieces look more attractive to younger quail, newborn or new hatched quail, and it's a little bit easier for them to ingest and digest. But when you get into the older birds, they actually like the bigger crumbles. That's more attractive to them, so they're eating that, which is why you end up with a feeder tray or trough full of powder and dust, that it just doesn't look attractive to them. So, and we also talked a little bit about fermenting feed. I used to ferment feed all the time back when I had my chickens. That was one of my things that I did on a regular basis, because I noticed the difference looking at the plumage on the birds. It was like they were more iridescent, healthier looking feathers, everything. I could tell a difference when I was feeding my chickens fermented feed. And I did try it with my quail, and I still think it's a good idea to give it to your quail if you properly make the feed. Jeff said that you really want to watch the feed, because if it gets moldy, then you're just introducing a whole lot of new problems if the food isn't fermented properly. But I did it with my quail, and they seemed to enjoy it. I mean, they liked it, they ate it, they cleaned it all up. And did I notice a difference in their in their plumage? Not really, because mainly in my breeding cages, you've got so many hens and roosters that your hens start to look a little bit rough after they've been bred so many times. Their feathers just look a little beat up. But Mary says the vinegar I use is pure apple cider vinegar with the mother. That is also what I use. I actually drink that stuff on a daily basis. I put a slice of lemon, not a slice, but a quarter lemon, squeeze the lemon juice in there, 2 tablespoons apple cider vinegar, and what's that stuff called? Pomegranate juice. A little bit of pomegranate juice, and then I'll fill it up with water, and that is my healthy water for the day. Anita says, here in Virginia, for animal feed of any kind, we have to send any animal feed to a university analysis to get a guaranteed analysis. Cool. After that, it seems to be hit or miss as to testing. Also, at any time, a sample can be requested to be tested, but I'm not sure how often that happens. Interesting. And that's good, though, because, you got to keep the feed mills in check also to make sure that what they say they're selling you. And I think Jeff was talking too about, prices of the different grains and stuff determines how the mill creates that food. Like, one month they might buy a certain grain that's a little bit lower priced, and then a couple months down the road they're buying a different grain because it's at a lower price, and they can save a little money but still keep the same nutritional value up in the feed. So yeah, I would have never thought that the whole feed industry was that. Yeah, and I mean, I know it's got to be made right, but the exact science and the way Jeff was explaining it was like, wow, there's so much goes into it. Bob says, do they get grit from play sand? I would think so. Jeff said in the live stream that they will eat sand, and a lot of people use it, for the quail to sand baths, or to take sand baths. But he said it's not optimal like a granite-based quail would be. So, Backyard Quail Keeper says, how much mealworms should you feed your quail, and can you overfeed them? I believe he covered that topic too. Somebody was asking about that. Um, do not depend. This is what Jeff was saying. Do not depend on mealworms as a source of, like, say, protein or whatever. It's more like a treat, and to be very careful with it. So, yeah, as a matter of fact, I just had a bag sent to me of black soldier fly larvae from a company. I think they want me to do another review on it. But I don't feed it to my birds anymore. I'll probably end up spreading it around the yard and letting the wild birds eat it. But yeah, I would be careful. Go on the Facebook group and the Coturnix Corner Facebook group page, and find that thread with Jeff and ask him about that, because he'll give you a better answer than I can. But yeah, you definitely can't overfeed them, so be careful with them. There, Nabiki, right after. Nabiki says, backyard quail keeper, you can certainly overfeed. Treats should not be more than 10% of their diet. There you go. Nabiki says, yes, they stink so much on the Purina starter. I never had that problem with Bar Ale or Hunt and Barons. Yeah, and that was the funny thing, is because when I started with quail, I started out with Purina Game Bird starter, because that's the only starter feed that we had available in our area. I couldn't even find a different brand turkey starter. So I was always on Purina, and my quail room, it always stunk. And I'm like, man, why? And I always noticed that it was the younger birds that were stinking, like the not so much the chicks, because they're on pine shaving beddings. But once I took the chicks at, say, 2 weeks old, 2.5 weeks old, and put them into grow outs, from 2.5 weeks up till the time I got them on a layer feed, man, did them trays smell. So I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody needs to contact Purina and say, what are you putting in your feed that's making our quail stink so bad? Okay, Anita answered Osborne's Farms. We used to sell Coturnix for dog training. The trainer said they would use launchers with young birds to get the air they need when they're flushing. It's a training tool. Yep. Rob says, I believe Jeff said Kalmbach is as a feed is excellent, but as a company, morals, etc. is not good. Really? I'm going to have to go back and watch that, because I didn't catch that. But like I say, I was behind the scenes doing stuff, watching the chat room and whatnot, so I really wasn't paying a whole lot. I was paying attention, but I had my mind on other things. Jeremiah says, Terry, have you heard of biochar? I started making it recently and put in my manure trays, and then that gets put in the garden. It supercharges your compost and reduces the odor. I think I have heard of that before. I never really looked into it as far as, making it, or I don't know, is biochar something that you can buy? Because we used to have a burn pit out in the backyard, and I used to go out there and gather up some of the ashes, which I would use in my sand baths, but I was also grabbing up some of the burned or the charred wood pieces, and I was sprinkling that on the manure trays, and that seemed to help a little bit. I didn't know exactly what it was doing or why, but yeah, maybe I need to start another burn pile. Let's see, Mary says, I'm going to start ordering from the Virtual Poultry Show and Breeder Powder and maybe one of their other products. It was a great show. That I would be really interested in finding out what they have and what they charge to ship, because I actually checked into a feed company that Anita Garrett uses, and they've got some great feed. The problem is I need to order it half a ton at a time. It's either 1 ton at a time, and the shipping killed me. I mean, it was just unbelievably expensive. So, that kind of blew that idea. Wendell says Kalmbach feed has diatomaceous earth in it as an ingredient. Very interesting. I never read I don't read the fine print on the tag. I read the protein and the calcium levels, but I never get into all that real fine print at the bottom. Child of God says, how do you get grit? We have to check at the farm store. Do they get sand baths? It's play sand. Yeah, sand is fine for sand baths. But if you want to use, regular poultry grit, you can either find it on Amazon, or I'm sure your local feed store carries it. Most of them do. I know even Tractor Supply carries it. Just, I tried to find, so I actually bought chick grit because it was smaller particles. The poultry grit was a little too big, and I was thinking they, wouldn't eat that. So, Dale says, I heard in one of those videos that if you feed your quail a medicated starter feed, it will harm them. See, I've never heard that. I have talked to a few different people that I trust, and they say you don't want to feed medicated because there's no need to feed it. If your birds, doesn't have, coccidiosis or sick, but I'm trying to think of the amprolium in the medicated feed is not going to hurt them if you have to, say, feed it. You can't get your regular feed and all they had is medicated. A bag of medicated feed's not going to hurt you. Okay. Jeremiah said, I tried to listen to the nutrition stream but couldn't hear with crappy audio, maxed out my work truck. I don't know if that's easily adjusted if you edit. Yeah, well, actually, you didn't listen long enough. When we switched over to Jeff and Rebecca, when I switched scenes, it automatically unmuted my mic, and I don't know if you guys can hear it in the background right now, but my air conditioner is on. It's just a window unit in here. But I actually muted myself, so once you got a little bit further into the live stream, it's perfect audio. But I'll see if I can't clip out that little section and clean the audio up a little bit in Adobe Audition. But I got another microphone. It's a shotgun mic, and that's the one that I used to use. But this one was supposed to be a lot better. It does. It's a good mic, but it picks up everything. It picks up all the noises in the room. Let's see. Mary says they use smell, and grit doesn't have any. The grit doesn't have any smell, so if it's in the feed, they get it because of the smell of the feed. Yep, that's what Jeff said. Fresh feed smells good to the birds. Okay. Mary says, I do the same with a drink. I only use lemon, apple cider, and molasses. Oh, there you go. I got to try that. Actually, I got to try honey. We just, harvested some honey from our bees this past weekend. Deanna says, I was using apple cider vinegar and my water container grew mold. Really? I would think that the acidity of the apple cider vinegar would kill mold. What's the matter, baby? Huh? Okay, come on. All right, where are we at here? Backyard Quail Keeper said, I recently got pansy quail. What would the color outcome be if I bred with tuxedo or Italian? A mutt? Hold on, I got to let my dog out. Come on. I guess she can only sit for so long and she gets bored. Let's see. Well, pansy is just a pattern mutation on a pharaoh, so you're going to get a fawn-based pansy and probably some more Italians. A very small percentage of Italians. I don't know why. I mean, depending on the base of the tuxedo, I mean, if you bred it with a Pharaoh-based tux, you're probably going to get mostly Pharaoh tuxes, maybe some pansy patterning on a tux. I don't know. I don't do anything with tuxes, really. So, but yeah, I mean, if you breed them with Italian, you're going to have a pansy with an Italian base, or they call it fawn-enhanced pansies. Jeremiah says, I did drink apple cider vinegar for a while until someone told me it dissolves tooth enamel. You got to drink it faster. Just pour it over. Don't let your teeth touch it. I don't know. I imagine it would. I mean, vinegar, the acid in the vinegar, eats up calcium. If you drop an eggshell, if you drop an egg in vinegar, wake up next morning, a hard-boiled egg in vinegar, you're going to have a peeled egg. The shell be dissolved off of it. Main reason I drink it is, one, it's good for the gut biome, and also I have a kidney stone that we're trying to dissolve, so I'm pounding the apple cider vinegar trying to dissolve that stone a little bit. Jeremiah says pansy is probably recessive. Some say it's incomplete dominant, so you probably won't see it expressed if one of the parents doesn't have homozygous pansy. Yeah, good point. Because when I was breeding my pansies to Rue, I was working on a red pansy line. I got all Italian phenotypes, or not Italian, Egyptian phenotypes. So yeah, definitely have to have heterozygous on one side and then homozygous on the other, either the hen or the rooster. So good call, Jeremiah. Backyard Quail Keeper says, okay, thanks. I always see them waiting on the mealworms jumping up so I could lose a finger. That's funny. Mary says, I know apple cider vinegar will dissolve an eggshell or off-boiled eggs. Wendell told me about that. It works great. Yep. Lindsay said, Jeff said common box formula is okay, not the best, not the worst, probably needs to be supplemented. Yeah, and I think that's what Rebecca's doing over at Thieving Otter Farm. She said that she does blend her Kalmbach with, I believe it's some of the show or feather varieties of feed. So yeah, I need to talk to her on that and find out. Bob says, my hutches are outside but next to a covered patio, so smell was a concern. Odor diminished greatly when I switched from Purina to Kalmbach, and I also put a layer of sawdust in the poop trays to help drying. That's the thing that I find helps them best, is dry manure doesn't smell. I can have trays that are overflowing and filled to the top, but as long as the manure is dry, there's no smell to it. Which is why in the summertime down here, I run the air conditioner in my quail room to keep the humidity levels lower than the 100% humidity that we have outside. And I also have a box fan, or it's not a box fan, it's a industrial fan, 24-inch industrial fan, circulating the air around the shop. So I've always got air movement over the manure. And it does a pretty good job. It dries it out. My shop's not real big. It's 27 by 12. And it doesn't take long to smell it up quick. So Jeremiah says, yes, Terry, you can buy biochar, but it's like $20 a pound. Wow. Is that biochar the same stuff that I'm digging out of my burn pit? The charred pieces of wood? If it is, I'll just make my own. Deanna says, Mary Howard, dilute the vinegar and the eggshells with water and give calcium to plants. Hey, there you go. Frank says, we had a little baking powder in our poop trays mixed with cedar to help control smell. Is that baking powder or baking soda? I think baking soda is the one that kills odors, isn't it? I don't know. What time is it getting? Oh, I got about 4 minutes, guys, and I got to get rolling. I got to do another video right after this that I'm working on. And I'm supposed to go out and do some work. A buddy of mine wants some calipers put on his car, and we're going to do some tests before we do that this morning. But okay, not talking to me. I'm just kind of jumping over these because I only got a few minutes left. Carrie says, what are your thoughts on copper in water containers to stop mold? That's funny because I've never had mold. I've never had any mold in my containers. I've never had any that green slime algae buildup in any of my water containers. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know what copper would do to mold. I'm sure maybe that's why they make copper pipes up in your water lines. Yeah, I don't know. That you'd have to check with somebody else on that. Deanna says, Mary, are you... Oh, sorry. Talk to me. Talk to me. Child of God says, don't drink vinegar straight. I drink the juice of 1 lemon, equal apple cider vinegar with cinnamon, honey, water to taste, drink it throughout the morning. Yeah, that's what I do. 2 tablespoons a day is what I'm taking of apple cider vinegar. Fat Country's in the house this morning from Tampa Bay. Glad you could join us. Mary says, poultry show and breeder powder is the supplement. Is that the stuff, Mary, that Rebecca's using? And Nabiki says, talk to everyone later. Need to go feed my birds and take care of the garden. As do I. I've got stuff I've got to do. So, Don says, tuned in late, going to rewind. Yeah, we're fixing to pull the plug down. So, yeah, go ahead and just watch the replay. Jeremiah says, you're probably getting some biochar out of the burn pit. You want it to be heated but not burned. You want a particular shape pit to heat the wood without oxygen. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll look into that. But anyhow, we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on this one, guys. Don't forget to join us Tuesday, August 22nd. Jennifer Bryant is coming on the show. She did a incubator comparison test, side-by-side test of a bunch of different brand incubators, and she is going to be giving us the results on that. So that should be pretty interesting. Again, if you have any more questions for Jeff regarding nutrition, head on over to the Katurnik's Corner Facebook group, and in the it's pinned right at the top. You can't miss it. In the featured post is one for Jeff. Ask your questions in there, and Jeff said he's happy to, jump in and help out. So, guys, I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, which there's not a whole lot left, and a good week next week. Again, don't forget to join us on Tuesday. So, have a great one, guys. We'll see you next week.